Hey guys, it's Catfish here again and welcome back to my channel. It's December 2023 and this is update 2.9. So we're going to do a quick tier list about every weapon in the game up to the current meta. So again, everything in here is based on my opinion. So take everything with a grain of salt. But my opinion is based on 6 years of PUBG Mobile research. So I was here in PUBG Mobile, one of the first players way back in Season 1. And I remember when Erangel was the only map, when you can put 8x scopes on M416, when Tommy Gun used to be an airdrop weapon, when UMP9 used to dominate the world because it had basically no recoil and you could, snipe people from like 300 meters away. It was great. And it was just fun to see how these weapons evolved over time. So, right now, when 2024 is around the corner, let's see what's the best, weapons to use. Now, I'm going to be doing this class by class, all right? So we're going to be doing assault rifles first. I will be including timestamps in these videos. So, in case you don't care about assault rifles, you just want to see submachine guns, you can skip to the submachine gun section. If you don't care about any of my analysis, you just want to see what I think. If you're impatient, just skip to the end. I'll include the full tier list at the very end. And I just want to emphasize that this is not a scripted thing. I'm not reading off a script this time. I want this to be more of a discussion. So if you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Again, I'm not shooting anyone down. As I'm talking about these weapons, if you disagree with me, just know that I respect your choice. Again, this is my very humble opinion, and this is based on what I observe after 6 years of PUBG Mobile research. So please take me with a grain of salt. I'm not the ultimate authority with PUBG Mobile weapons, but this is just what I personally think is the most meta weapons right now based on my experience researching PUBG Mobile weapons. All right, so first of all, let's start with the bottom to the top. I think the worst gun in the game, or the worst assault rifle in the game, is the M16A4. And the reason why I think that is because there's not really a position that it fills. Like, you can say, like, its burst mode isn't really that good because it kicks so much that you might as well just use an M4, right? If you're gonna burst fire anyways. Any good player can just burst fire in an M4 anyway, just fire in 3-round bursts. And if you single tap, why not just use a Mini 14, right? There's really no reason this weapon even existed. Back then, when there was no speed tap limit for the M16, it was a great weapon because it was very skill-based. It killed faster than the M762 if you tap fast enough, and it wasn't just about spam tapping, you had to tap rhythmically. So it was a very skill-based weapon, and I liked it. But unfortunately, it's nerfed to a state where it's basically a very weak DMR right now. So that's why it goes on F. Right above M16A4, I would put the MK47 Mutant for the same reason. Again, it's not like a bad weapon. It's just, it doesn't really fill a role. Like, what exact role is it supposed to fill? If you want a single tap, just use an SKS, just use an SLR, even use the QBU or MK12 and it'll do a better job. Burst fire, what possible reason would you need to burst fire a 7.62 AR? Just use AKM, M7. Plus, the MK47 Mutant isn't even a common weapon. So when you do find it, it's like you'd find AKMs and M7s already. You would need to actively put down your AKM and pick up the MK47 to use it. Like, who in their right minds would drop an AKM for the MK47 Mutant? There's really no reason this gun exists. So that's why it goes on D tier. The reason it's higher than M16 is because at least it does better damage. So as a single tap weapon, at least like it does more damage for that one headshot, in case you're trying to peek someone and fire that one shot. For C tier, I'm going to put the Ace-32 as well as the Honey Badger. And the reason why both these weapons kind of fit the C tier is because they're not bad and they're not good. Like, take the Honey Badger, for example. It's got one of the best horizontal recoil controls in the game. But in order to balance the game, or balance the gun, it has one of the worst recovery time. Like, God, like, if you ever tried to single tap with the Honey Badger, you would know why nobody uses Honey Badger as a primary weapon. Because it's the recovery speed. This gun just bounces and bounces and bounces, and it's really hard to get follow-up shots with the Honey Badger. It's great for like maybe up to 20 meters, ADS with the red dot, but past that, why would anyone pick a Honey Badger over, say, like an M4, right? So that's why it doesn't really fit a role. If you want to hit hard, just pick it up at M7 or AKM. If you want to be more accurate, just use an M4. This game doesn't like weapons. As of well, let me put it this way. The the game right now doesn't like weapons that are all-rounder. This game prefers very, very specialized weapons that are really good in one situation and sucky at every other situation. That's what the current meta is. Like you would do better as an Kar 98K and an Uzi and just choosing to pick fights when they're really long range or or really close range rather than an M4. That's my personal opinion, because an M4 you will never win against an Uzi 1v1, and you'll never be able to outsnipe a Kar 98. And in a team-based game, there will always be one person on your team. You can divide up the roles. So that's why I think right now, like, weapons that are more specialized do better than weapons that are more all-rounder. So Honey Badger, going back to my point, Honey Badger, that because it doesn't really fit in that role of a heavy-hitting AR, nor a accurate light-hitting AR, it just doesn't really fit in the meta. Okay? Based off of the same logic that weapons that kind of are really well balanced doesn't really have a meta, I'm going to say that the Scar L and the QBZ 95 kind of go into the B tier. It kind of is like, if it's like this, if AKM is on one end of the extreme and M4 is on the other end of the extreme, Ace 32 and Honey Badger are in the middle, but leaning slightly more towards AKM, while Scar L and QBZ 95 leans a little bit more towards M4. So again, they don't really fit a role. Like, if you're gonna spray, who would ever take a Scar L over an M4? If you're gonna hit hard and squad wipe, who would ever take a Honey Badger over an AKM? The only reason I will say Scar L and QBZ 95 rates slightly higher than Honey Badger is because it's accurate. So in more ranges, in farther ranges, the Scar L will be more useful than an Ace 32 or a Honey Badger. All right. So now moving on to like the, you know what? I actually forgot another weapon. I'm going to put the M762 in this category as well. The M762 used to be a very powerful weapon because it fired fast, it hit hard, it had great horizontal recoil, so all you need to do is just put a vertical grip on it and pull it down, or, actually even better, put the angle grip on it so there's literally no horizontal recoil, so all you gotta do is pull it down, which is easy if you know how to control recoil. But, the game has been kind of mean to it. Not that the game nerfed it, it's just that other weapons got buffed so much that the M7 just kind of fell into kind of a useless kind of role. The AK now has better recoil than M7. The AK now hits harder than M7, and now the AK fires about the same speed as the M7. So, and plus, M7 has a slower bullet speed than AKM. So, there's no reason to ever take an M7 over an AKM. On top of the fact that AKM spawns way more than M7. So, again, to use the M7, you probably already have stumbled across an AKM anyway. So, there's really, it doesn't really fit into any meta right now. Okay, and finally, the A tier. I'm going to put the FAMAS and the Groza right here. And the reason why these airdrop weapons, hear me out, the reason why these airdrop weapons are an A tier and not S tier is because there's some kind of drawback that prevents them from being meta. Now, FAMAS, everyone knows, it has a really, really brutal, 3.2 second, reload time. And that just gets you killed, especially for the fact that it doesn't have an extended magazine.
Target dead! No mercy!
Okay, finishing.
No
You only have
mercy!
30 rounds cannot squad wipe, especially if you have to reload more longer than 3 seconds for every 30 rounds you fire. It kills fast. Its recoil is kind of wonky, so you wouldn't use it past 20 meters. But yeah, it's not bad. In a clutch situation, I would say that it does a better job than a Scar L, if you have time to reload on that. Groza is a
Killing!
kind of a disappointment because it used to be a very, very respected weapon, but right now, it kind of got, again, it's not that it got nerfed, it's just that other weapons got so much stronger. Groza does the same damage as AKM, but it doesn't have the same feature as AKM where if you shoot someone in the leg or the arm, it does a whopping damage. Like AKM right now, if you shoot someone in the thighs, even if you're wearing level 3, it's like a 4-shot kill. So, and Groza doesn't have that. The only thing Groza has is fast firing rate, and maybe better recoil control than AKM, but also not really. Groza also scientifically have worse hip fire than AKM. So in a clutch situation, you'd be missing more shots with a Groza than you would with an AKM. All right, so real quick before we move on to the S tier assault rifles, I want to talk briefly about the M4 and the G36. First of all, the G36 and the M4 are basically the same weapon. Like, you can think of G36C as basically the Vikendi M4. If you see one or the other, they're exchangeable. The only difference is that G36C doesn't require the tactical stock, so maybe it's a better weapon in that regard. The M4 used to be PUBG's favorite. It used to be like the ultimate meta weapon in PUBG Mobile, but now that so many other weapons have been introduced and other weapons have been buffed so much higher and M4 has relatively stayed the same, M4 isn't really the best weapon anymore. It's still a good weapon, no doubt. It's really, really accurate, but it's just not, it's not as strong as it used to be. Again, not because it got nerfed, but because other weapons got much stronger. Like back then, the AKM hits really hard, but the AKM was also very inaccurate. Now that the AKM is, has its recoil buffed, up until like around 20 meters, you can pretty much hit almost every shot with the AKM. And now that AKM does incredible limb shot damage, you don't even need to hit vital body parts or headshots to kill someone very quickly. So while the M4 is still a good weapon and it fits the role of a mid-range spray weapon very well, it just doesn't count as an S tier weapon anymore. Moving on to the S tier, I'm going to put the AUG and the AKM right here. So we've been talking about the AKM a lot. AKM right now is extremely, extremely meta. AK head. Oh, I was trying to bait him to shoot me. Behind this rock. Get a headshot. Finish the game. He's peeking left of that rock. Right?
Enemies ahead.
There you go. Headshot. Yeah. I knew why I love AKM.
The building.
Mark the location.
Enemy. Footstep. Oh.
Watch out. Watch
out. Not only because its hip fire got buffed, its recoil got hella buffed since when it first came out almost 6 years ago, but because they buffed its limb shot damage to an incredibly, incredibly high number. In fact, let me just check right now. I believe I actually have.
God.
That second shot was just based on muscle memory. Both the Groza and the AKM does around 47, 48 damage to the chest, but the Groza only does a measly 20 damage to the limbs, but AKM does 32 damage to the limbs. That's like almost like 66% of your chest shot damage. You know what that means? That means if someone's wearing level 3, shooting them in the limbs actually does more damage to them than shooting them in the chest. Which is great because, even if they try crouch firing you, you can just always aim lower and you'll always kill them in 4 shots anyways. And that's why AKM is so unbelievably strong right now because it doesn't matter if it's inaccurate, just hit anywhere on their body and it'll be a 4-shot kill. So yeah, AKM is extremely meta right now, and its bullet speed is buffed, its hip fire is buffed, its damage got buffed. It's just incredibly strong as a close range AR. And then at the top spot, obviously the AUG. AUG is basically what you get if you had an accuracy that's about in between Scar L and M4, but give it the rate of fire of like a Groza. It's unbelievably meta right now. It's just sad that the AUG doesn't spawn more often, but you can always buy it from a shop. And if you do the Christmas event right now, you often find it in the Christmas stockings or in any of the snowy villages. AUG is probably the best AR in the game right now. Not only does it have an incredible kill speed, in fact, the fastest killing speed AR, not counting FAMAS and Groza, but it's also very accurate. So whether you're fighting enemies at 10 meters or 30 meters or even 50 meters, this gun just absolutely shreds people. Just to put things into perspective, AUG actually kills faster than Uzi right now. That's just how unbelievably cancerous the AUG is. I think, the AUG might get nerfed just because of how strong it is, but I also hope it doesn't get nerfed just because I really enjoy using it. It's great. The only thing that AUG kind of lacks is the reload speed. So it does take 2.6 seconds to reload, so that's a bit on the slower side, but I mean, come on. Small price to pay for a weapon with almost M4 accuracy and faster kill speed than Uzi. So this is my tier list for assault rifles. So if you guys want to, feel free to discuss. This is just my personal opinion for the assault rifles. So let's now move on to the SMGs. So I'm going to clear this, and let's move on to SMGs now. All right. Again, we're going to start moving from the bottom to the top. I think the worst SMGs in the game... Oh, sorry, let me just change this. Submachine guns. I think the worst SMG in the game is hands down the MP5K. Not only does it only show up on like 1 or 2 maps, and it's an incredibly rare drop. Like if you play Erangel and Livik, you almost don't see MP5K at all. Not only that, but it doesn't do anything well. Like what? Like ask yourself really. Like think about it. What exactly does MP5K do? If you want to squad wipe, a Tommy gun does it better. Its ADS is complete trash. Even if you put the the horizontal grip, what is it called, the angle grip on it, it's trash. It requires a buttload of attachments to complete, and until you complete all attachments, its reload is horrible. By the way, its reload is like 3.6 seconds, unbelievably trash. And it doesn't squad wipe well because each bullet does very little damage despite it having a 40-round extended magazine. Its ADS is trash. You would never use it over like even an AKM has better recoil control than MP5K. There's just no reason to use it. So yeah, it's just complete trash. Use it if you want to lose the game, basically. There's no role that MP5K fulfills, especially since UMP45 is so much more common and literally better in every way, and kills faster too. All right, so in D tier, I'm gonna have to put the Thompson. And the reason why Thompson goes into the D tier is because they nerfed it horribly. So back then there was a phase where the Tommy gun killed faster or about as fast as a Groza. That was the good days. It had a 50-round drum. It killed so incredibly quickly. It was probably one of the best sidearms to pair with like a DMR. Like if you're using like an SKS, that can handle all mid-range to long-range fights, a Tommy gun at the time was one of the strongest weapons to use. I mean, 50 rounds. You can literally kill a full squad before having to reload. Yeah, it was great back then, but right now they just nerfed it so bad that it kills slow. The only saving grace it has is the 50-round magazine, but there's other guns that have that, the P90, the Bison. There's no reason to have to use a gun that kills this slowly. On top of the fact that it currently has one of the slowest bullet speed in the game. I don't remember the exact number, but I remember the last time I did an experiment on it, it was like I don't know, like 300 or like 200. Yeah, like 260-ish meters per second, which means the bullet takes forever to hit the enemy. And how PUBG works is if you and your enemy shoot each other at the same time and one person gets knocked, their bullet just vanishes completely, just completely vanishes in midair. So if you're firing your Tommy gun at an enemy and they knock you first, those bullets that haven't reached him yet will just vanish. And that's why I don't think Tommy gun is a very meta right now. I will say it's C tier. It's not that bad that it's just trash. Like it's good. It has a 50-round magazine. It's just not good or bad. Like it's just an average. Next up, I'm gonna have to put the Vector. The reason why Vector goes into B tier is because it's very attachment dependent. You need to have an extended magazine for this to work. I mean, 19 rounds stock on a Vector is just brutal. On top of that, the Vector isn't blessed like the Uzi with amazing hipfire. Like you need the laser sight, you need the compensator. Granted, when you get everything decked out, yeah, the Vector is good. It's basically an Uzi that can attach a scope, but it's if you can get everything decked out. And even then, the Vector's hipfire is still not as good as the Uzi. Even with the compensator, even with the laser sight, it just doesn't fill a role that you need. If you want a weapon that kills really quickly, that keeps you safe, that never fails you, that's the Uzi. If you want a weapon that can scope in, like an SMG that can scope in, can kind of handle mid-range, who would take a Vector over a UMP? So again, the Vector doesn't really fill any role. Going back to the whole philosophy that right now guns that are more specialized do better in the current meta than weapons that kind of don't really have a job, like a responsibility to the team. So I put Vector in B tier, and just to let you guys know, B tier means kind of like above average, but not like super good. So I want you guys to don't think of C as bad. Like C tier means it's just average, D means below average, and F is just trash. B tier is above average, and an A is really above average, and S, it means complete meta. So right. So above Vector, I'm gonna have to put the Uzi. And the reason the Uzi goes into A tier is because it never fails you. Cabo, if he rushes me, you have to light him up. Thank you, thank you. Uzi's nice. I like Uzi. It's a good clutch weapon, like this exact situation's great. Like it's not good as a primary weapon, but then again, SMGs are never meant to be primary weapons anyways. No one's gonna, even if you see, I'm just gonna outright say it, the UMP-45 is the best SMG right now. But even with the UMP-45, you're not gonna be running around with the UMP-45 as your primary weapon, running around Erangel with the UMP-45. No, you're gonna be using an AUG or an M4 or an AKM. So SMGs, their role really is just to be a sidearm. It's like close range only. And right now, the reason why Uzi is in the A tier is because it has the best hipfire in the game. Like, it has MG3 level hipfire. Like, it, granted, small magazine, yes. It can only kill 1 or 2 people, yes. But it fills a role that if your primary weapon runs out of ammo and you have that one last enemy on the enemy squad that is alive and it's just you and him and everyone else on your team and his team are knocked and it's just down to a 1v1, Uzi doesn't fail you. It has the fastest rate of fire in the game right now out of, I believe, like 20, 21 bullets per second. It has the best, most precise hip fire in the game, and it's incredibly not attachment dependent. The only attachment you really need is maybe the extended magazine. It doesn't even need the stock. It doesn't really need the compensator. And if you're just hip firing with it, you don't even need a sight for it. So one attachment and it's good to go. And you find it everywhere. It's so common. You can touch down in Erangel and have an Uzi. It's a weapon that doesn't fail you. So for that reliability and for that ability to save your life in that clutch, fail-safe emergency situation, I put it at A tier. Okay, so we know that the UMP-45 is S tier, and I would like to talk a little bit about that. UMP being top tier, I mean, this is a surprise to nobody. You know, if a weapon is popular, it's popular for a reason. Like, a weapon that is trash, like the Tommy gun, you're not gonna, you know, when you kill a full squad, you're not gonna find Tommy guns in their boxes, right? It's gonna be UMPs. And why is everyone using it? Because it can do everything. It's almost like 90% assault rifle. It can hip fire incredibly well. It can ADS up to 200 meters incredibly well with almost no recoil. You know, granted it's an SMG, so it has slow bullet speed, so you're not going to be spraying at 200 meters. But if an enemy is standing still for you and you get the first shot and you're like ambushing him, oh my god, the UMP is great. It's incredibly flexible. You can attach all scopes. You know, it can squad wipe. You know, granted it has a slightly smaller magazine, but its kill speed combined with its accuracy, combined with its hip fire, combined with its damage, it's a very, very good all-rounder reliable weapon. It's the only weapon that I would say that being a well all-rounder weapon, it fits into the current PUBG meta. Like it is one of those rare weapons that because it does everything so well, it's actually good. Like just earlier I was saying that, you know, weapons that are well balanced don't do as well as guns that are more specialized. UMP is one of those extremely rare exceptions. Just because on top of it being well balanced and kind of can do everything so well, each thing it does well is just so unbelievably strong that it's just a weapon you can't pass up. So with that kind of, you know, with UMP being at the S tier, I'm gonna have to say that the PP19 Bison, which, you know, and also the P90 is also in the same S tier.
If you are gay, if you have to finish me.
What's wrong with being gay? What's wrong with being gay, huh?
Help!
Nothing,
Awesome.
just...
So the reason why they're also S tier is the same exact reason. I mean, they can kind of do almost everything, and they do it really, really well. Bison is basically UMP-45 with double the magazine space, but also double the reload. You know, Bison and P90 are almost pseudo ARs. Like, especially Bison, it has such a good accuracy, such a good recoil control that in my other videos, you can see me spraying people up to 200 meters, and every bullet will hit them. It fits a good role. Like, in mid range, you can spray people. In close range, you can wipe squads. That's why I think currently these 3 weapons are the current meta. You want SMGs that kill fast, that can handle a mid range spray, and have a large enough magazine that you can kill maybe 1, 2, or even if you're lucky, 3 people before having to reload. So these are just my opinions for the current meta best submachine guns. Again, if you disagree with this, if you have your own preference, you're welcome to share that in the comments. These are just my personal preference. All right, so now let's move on to the DMRs. All right, so the designated marksman rifles, or also known as battle rifles or automatic rifles. All right, DMRs. So the worst DMR right now is MK12. It just doesn't fill any role. It doesn't really do anything really well. What role does it have? If you want an accurate DMR, just use Mini 14. If you want a hard-hitting DMR, just use SKS. There's really no role it takes. Plus, it's rare. You don't really find it. Again, it's the same philosophy as with dropping a really good common weapon for a really rare bad weapon. Like, why would you ever drop a common good weapon like Mini 14 or SKS that you see more often for an inferior MK12 that you rarely see, right? So that's why MK12 goes into the F tier. It doesn't fit any meta. Now, D tier, I'm gonna have to put the VSS. Now, VSS is funny, it's good for memes, but when it comes down to it, when your life depends on it, you can't really depend on it the same way you depend on other DMR. It doesn't really fit any role. For all intents and purposes, what a VSS is right now is basically a suppressed UMP with a 4x on it. Like, prove me wrong. Like, they have the same damage, they kill about the same speed, they're both suppressed. Literally, they do the same damage. They kill the same exact speed. And UMP can also put a 4x scope, except UMP has way better hip fire and a bigger magazine. So what possible reason would you need to use a VSS? And plus, again, it's the same philosophy. Who would drop a UMP for a VSS, right? Like, who would drop a more common, superior weapon for a rarer, inferior weapon? So again, it doesn't really fit any role. There's a better weapon that's out there that is more common than it. So that's why it's a D tier. All right. Next up, I'm gonna have to put both the QBU and the SLR. And the reason why these weapons are in the C tier is because they don't do anything really well. QBU, first of all, QBU and SLR, the reason why they're so low is because you don't see them at all. QB only shows up on what like Sandhawk and maybe one other map, maybe Livik. SLR, yeah, it shows up on Erangel. Right now, because of the Christmas event, try normal Erangel. You almost never see SLRs. You almost always see Mini 14s or SKS. On top of that, recent studies have shown that SLR is actually inferior to the SKS in every way. And so there's really no reason for anyone, again, to drop a more common and more superior SKS for the more rare and inferior SLR. All right. Next up for B tier, I'm going to have to put the Mini 14. Actually, no, we're going to skip this is more like A tier. There's really no B tier DMR. There's nothing that's above average right now. Mini 14, actually, is that true? Nah, yeah, Mini 14 is good. Mini 14 is good right now because, it has 30 rounds with an extended magazine, right? So it's the DMR with the highest magazine capacity. Mini 14 also has the fastest bullet speed right now. I believe it's like 1,000 meters a second. So this bullet can travel almost a kilometer a second. So you almost don't need to lead your shots when you fire the Mini 14. Plus, it's got great recoil, great recovery, so you can get those follow-up shots really quickly. On top of the fact that Mini 14 actually got buffed. So back then, the Mini 14 dealt less damage than like the AKM, so there's really no reason to use it, because if you're gonna single tap with the Mini 14, might as well just single tap with the AKM, because the AKM does more damage per shot. But now the Mini 14 has been buffed to 53 damage a shot, so it basically deals the damage that SKS used to deal 2 years ago. So imagine back then, the SKS, 2 years ago, But having the accuracy of Mini 14, that's what the Mini 14 is right now. So that's why I think it's like an A tier weapon, because it's really, really good. The only thing that holds it back is that it doesn't have that hard hitting power. You know, if like an enemy is peeking you, and you know, it just doesn't have that ability, that oomph, that power to knock them in 1 or 2 shots. It's a bit wonky. It's a bit of the weaker side. But again, you know, in an all-out spray, like long-range fight, you know, if you're seeing an enemy running across your field of view and you're, you know, shooting at them, yeah, Mini 14 is good. But you know, in those peak fights, when you're peeking a window and enemies peeking a window and they have an M24 or something, you know, you'd want the biggest possible, you know, hit. That, you know, that's what these DMRs are for. You know, they're not meant for you just you know, just the spam. You know, you'd use an AUG or an M4 for that if you're just gonna spray and pray. So for that reason, I can't really give it the S tier because there's better weapons out there. So what goes into S tier? Well, 2 weapons, M14 and SKS. And the reason why these, I mean, M14, that's obvious because it's the fastest killing weapon in the game.
Oh my god, he's blind.
Yo.
It might have really bad hip fire. It might have a lot of recoil, but that doesn't matter when you are literally the fastest killing weapon in the game. MK14 is the only DMR in all the DMRs that doesn't conform to the 10 taps a second rule. So every other DMR here, SKS, Mini 14, QBU, SLR, MK12, all the single tap ones, well, VSS doesn't count, but like all the single tap ones, they all can only tap at 10 rounds a second. But MK14 taps can fire up to 11.3 rounds a second. And that extra round a second is really the reason why it kills so fast. Otherwise, it deals about the same damage that SKS does. So, you know, you know, that's why the SKS is in the same S tier, because what the MK14 cannot offer is flexibility.
Oh, shit. I shot him. There, all dead.
Nice.
I love SKS so much. It has no recovery speed at all.
Nice.
Clear!
We cannot let the MG3 get close like that. Oh, 2v1. This is definitely the correct weapon.
Oh, wow. God damn, it's a 2-shot.
Nice.
There we go.
Smoking!
There we go.
He threw a
Thank
grenade?
you.
Jared, come to me.
Yeah. Man, is the SKS flexible. It's got, you know, you can attach a laser sight on it for hip fire. And by the way, if you attach the laser sight on the SKS, its hip fire is better than the ACAM and Groza combined. It's kind of funny how good a sniper rifle is as a close range weapon. Just try it. Grab an SKS, go to TDM, put the laser sight on it, and be marveled at how unbelievably good the SKS is as scoring headshots at up to like even 20 meters away. It's unbelievably strong. SKS, it has great recoil, great bullet speed, great damage. It's just an all-rounder, great weapon. So if you want power, go for the MK14. If you want a really great flexible weapon, go for the SKS. So this is my current tier list for best DMRs right now. All right, let's talk about snipers now. So snipers are pretty simple because snipers are already by themselves, by their nature, a very, very specialized class. There's only one job a sniper needs to fill, and that job is just to one-shot enemies by one tap to the head. So if the sniper can't do that, then it's a bad sniper, right? So, all right, so right off the bat, the weapon, the worst sniper in the game, for obvious reason, is the crossbow. No one's going to debate this, right? Crossbow and tactical crossbow doesn't have the range, has horrible bullet drop. Again, great for memes, and it's a memeable weapon for a reason, because it's hard to use, right? You don't see people memeing with the AUG or memeing with the the UMP45. Why? Because we know they're good weapons. What are memeable weapons? They're weapons that people know they're bad to use, which is why it's funny to get kills with them. Guns like sawed-off shotgun, crossbow, VSS. Why are they meme weapons? Because they're funny to use, right? So, crossbow, yeah, for obvious reasons, it's got bullet drop, horrible bullet speed. So that's why it goes into F tier. Winchester goes into D tier because, again, it's almost like an in-between a DMR, a sniper rifle, and right now, again, going back to my logic, weapons that have no role really don't fit into the current meta. If you want to use a DMR, just use an SKS. If you want to use a bolt action, just use a bolt action. And plus it doesn't even have it has a 2.7x scope, so you can't even attach an 8x to it. So it doesn't really have a role right now. On top of the fact that it only spawns on one map, so right. All right, next up for there's really no C tier. I mean, a sniper rifle either does its job or doesn't do its job. So right now, B tier, obviously Mosin and Kar 98 for obvious reasons, right? And the reason why Mosin and Kar 98 are B tier is because M24 is A tier. And the reason why M24 is A tier because AWM and AMR are S tier. I don't think anyone's going to challenge me on this list because M24 does a better job than Mosin and Kar 98. I mean, M24 is basically Mosin and Kar 98K, but does more damage, has a faster reload. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what an M24 is. It's like an upgrade to Mosin and Kar 98. Now, Mosin and Kar 98 are basically clones of each other. I mean, they're just regular, good old bread and butter sniper rifles. They don't do anything special. They're just sniper rifles. M24 is an upgrade of that. And obviously, for obvious reason, AWM and AMR are the best sniper rifles because they do a tremendous amount of damage. I will say that AWM scores a little bit higher than AMR because AWM gives you more bullets. Whereas like AMR gives you like 10, 15 bullets. That's not, that's not enough to like last a whole game. Whereas AWM, man, you could be firing for days. Like you can take out multiple squads with AWM. It just lasts longer. Granted, AMR is better at one shot in cars, so that is also not bad too. So they're both S tier, whichever one you choose, that's up to you. So that's pretty much it. There's not much snipers. It's basically boils down to whether they do their job or not. Do they headshot or do they don't? Right? Do they not? All right, next one, light machine guns. All right, this is going to be a very short list. Obviously, for common sense reasons, MG3 is S tier. No one's ever going to debate this. It's got squad wiping capabilities, which is exactly what a light machine gun is for. It's got the second fastest killing speed in the game, only second to MK14. But what this can do that the MK14 can't is literally squad wipe with just one magazine. If someone is camping with an MG3, it's a very bad idea for a squad to push in, one at a time or even all together. It's MG3 is currently the best tactics defeating weapon right now because it's just kills so unbelievably fast that no tactics can beat it if the MG3 is set up properly.
Nice.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh.
You'd have to throw smokes. And even then, you can just mow down the smokes. It's MG3 is, it's currently one of the most meta weapons in a game right now. All right. For A tier, I'm going to put the M249. And the reason, actually, I'm going to put the DP28 and M249 here. There's really no bad light machine guns right now. It just depends on what you're looking for. M249, it's got a lot of bullets. With the extended quick draw magazine, it goes up to 150, so you can spray all day. It's great, but I mean, it's got kind of wonky hip fire. It's kind of got bad ADS. The recoil is kind of not good. So that's why it's like the power option. If you want power, go for the M249. On the flip side, the DP28 is like the the accurate version. If you don't want a lot of power, but you want really precise, accurate fire, that's the DP28. I mean, the DP28 only has 47 rounds. I mean, even an AKM with drum mag can do a better job as a machine gun than a DP28. But what the DP28 can offer is incredibly laser accurate fire, even better than M4. Like, honestly, like the DP28 is almost borderline designated marksman rifle at this point. So it all just depends on what you're looking for. But I would say always drop an M249 or a DP28 for the MG3 for obvious reasons. All right. Next up, we got shotguns. And the worst shotgun in the game is the S1897 because it just doesn't fit any role. If you want a shotgun with a lot of magazine capacity, use the M10 or the S12K. If you want a weapon that kills fast, use the M10. So again, it's just doesn't fit any role. You know, at least I can say the S686 is C tier only because it is, you know, counting shotguns, it is the fastest killing weapon in the game. It can get out its two shells incredibly fast. So against one person, or if you're lucky at hitting both your shots, it can kill 2 people really, really fast. Granted, after that, you'd have to reload, which is why it's not, you know, higher tier, but it's a funny weapon to use because it just kills so unbelievably fast. Next up, I'm going to have to give the NS2000 B tier. And again, it doesn't really fit into any role. If you want to, granted, yes, it can fire slugs and it can hip fire, but it's kind of annoying that it kind of switches like that. If you're going to use a bolt action rifle, just use a bolt action rifle. If you want to use a shotgun, just use a DBS or an S12K or something. Like, there's no reason to have a designated spot in your weapon loadout that is a weapon that can't really fit into any role, right? So that's why it goes into B tier. Plus, it only shows up on like 1 or 2 maps, so it's not common anyways. All right, in A tier, there's actually 3 weapons that goes into A tier. There's no S tier shotgun because they all do something different. There's not one shotgun that can do really well. And obviously this is going to be the M1014, the S12K, and the DBS. And these 3 weapons are way too different for you to make any kind of comparison about them. Each of these shotguns do something slightly different, so none of them is better than the other. For example, the DBS is the power option. I mean, 14 rounds. I mean, you can pump and pump all day. It's one of the best defensive weapons out there. If you're camping the apartment, like a stairs in an apartment, or you're camping a house and you got a full squad rushing you, a DBS is probably the weapon you want in your hands because it's got the best chance at wiping that whole squad if they're the ones pushing you. It's got the magazine capacity to kill a full squad. It's got the kill speed to kill a full squad. It's good. It's a good, solid all-rounder shotgun. What it doesn't have is the reload speed, and that the S12K can offer. Now, S12K is like the balanced option. It doesn't really do anything well, but it's balanced. It's versatile. You can put a suppressor on it for lulls. You can put a duckbill on it for accuracy. It reloads incredibly quickly. It's basically like the AKM of shotguns. It just does everything really well. And finally, the M14 is like the chaotic build. This weapon is one of the fastest killing weapons in the game, and it fires pretty much on semi-automatic. So like with a DBS, it's kind of wonky because like you go fire 2 rounds really quickly and go to reload, and if you're caught on that reload, you can be killed pretty quickly. But the M1014, you just blast, boom, 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 boom. You just keep going and going until, you know, everything in front of you is just gone. It's a little bit easier to use, and plus the M1014 has something neither of these 2 shotguns have, and that is the ability to ADS and have your shotgun shells become more accurate. Yes, you heard me correctly. When you ADS with the ghost ring sight of the M1014, your shotgun shells magically become more precise, which is a very weird and incredibly unrealistic feature for shotguns, but hey, that is what it is. M1014 is the only shotgun that has that. So basically, you can think of M1014 as the range and chaotic build, S12K as the neutral build, and DBS as the ultimate close range build. So whichever one you prefer, that's completely up to you. Okay, and finally, we got the pistols. All right, the best pistol in the game right now, the worst pistol in the game right now is Deagle. And the reason why it's a Deagle is because, again, what role does it fill? Like, it's got horrible recovery speed. Its recoil is trash. Yeah, sure, it hits hard, but like hitting hard doesn't mean anything compared to raw DPS. Who cares if each bullet hits hard if like only half your bullet or only 10% of your bullets hit? It's really inaccurate. It's got horrible hip fire. It can't really do anything right. It can't even hold a suppressor. It's loud. It's just clumsy to use, and it's just not a good weapon. All right, in D tier, I'm gonna put the sawed-off shotgun because again, it's only good in close range. It doesn't really feel, I mean, yeah, it's just not as versatile as the other pistols. It's only good for, you know, close range, and its reload is slow. It just feels clumsy to use. Yeah, it's a good meme weapon, but it's just not really good if you're trying to play seriously as a sidearm. All right, next up, I'm gonna put both the the revolvers at B tier. So R1895 and the R45 are in B tier because they hit hard, They're very accurate. They got really good recoil, but again, slow reload speed prevents them from going higher. And next up, we got the P1911 and the P92. And the reason why these two weapons are A tier is because, first of all, they're the most common weapons in the game. You can go into any house in Georgia Pole, or any house in all of Erangel actually, and there will almost be guaranteed a P1911 or P92 spawn. These two weapons kill incredibly quickly, assuming you can tap fast enough. And in the case of the P92, you can actually, it has a respectable sized magazine. So if you're spamming all over the place, you'd be better at hitting your shots compared to like a weapon like the Deagle or like the revolver. And then finally in S tier, we got the P18C and the Scorpion for obvious reasons. These are the only two fully automatic pistols in the game. In the case of the P18C, it's basically like a mini Uzi. Like it almost does the job of an Uzi, but just not as well. So there you have it. These are the best pistols.
All right, so just like what I promised at the beginning of the video, for those of you who are more impatient and just want to see everything, this is basically the summary of everything we talked about. And I also want to talk really briefly about what I think is the best, most meta, most strongest build for PUBG Mobile Update 2.9 December 2023. So at the bottom right here, I'm going to highlight this for everyone to see. Right here is what I think is the weapons you guys should be using. Now, granted, AMR and AWM, these guys are airdrop weapons, so that's special. So is the MG3, which is right over here. So is the MK14, which is right over there. Everything else you see here is a really, really good build. I highly recommend you use a mid-range weapon like AUG, AKM, or SKS and pair it with a close-range weapon like UMP, PP19 Bison, and P90. This is probably, and just depending on which one you choose is completely up to you. You can do SKS, you can even do SKS AUG, you can do AKM AUG, but right now I think one of the strongest combo, or I should say the strongest combo in the game, in my opinion, is AUG as your primary weapon and UMP45 as your secondary weapon. Sidearm is P18C just because, that's a constant, it's there, that's just there. There's no debate. But right now, I think AUG, in my personal opinion, I think AUG and UMP45 is the strongest combo. If you're really serious and you're trying to be like ultra sweaty. Other than that, I think any guns inside this this kind of highlighted region is strong. Like SKS, AKM, that's strong. Like AKM, UMP, sure, you're a little bit more limited to like mid to close range, but yeah, you'd be strong. Just rush every, go in a car and rush every, enemy you hear. Don't fight in open range and you'll be fine. Bison, SKS, sure, you got one weapon that can squad wipe and another one with a smaller magazine, but has, can take on long range enemies. So honestly, any weapon combination within this highlighted area is the best combos you can use right now. And I guess that's pretty much it.
Again, these are just my personal opinion based on my 6 years of playing PUBG Mobile and doing weapon research. It's really fun to see how these weapons evolve over time. As of right now, this is just what I believe are the strongest weapons in the game. Feel free to disagree with me. Just keep in mind, when I rank these are based on serious games, scrim games, serious games, not for memes, not for trolls, not for like, meme games. Based on what I've seen so far. But anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that, with so many guns out there that are being introduced to PUBG, hopefully this video kind of gives you a better idea of what weapon to drop for another weapon. If it did find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please, consider subscribing to my channel. Share with your friends in case they're confused on what weapons they want to use. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Catfish out.